Hey fellas, hope you're all doing well. Today, I've decided I want to make a video telling everyone how I got into the trucking industry. It's something I've been thinking about making a video about for a long time, and I decided to take the plunge today. So, little backstory on how I got into trucking. The reason I want to share this is because every truck driver I've met on the road has had a different background. Like some of the people I've met have started young like me, and other people that I meet, they got into trucking at an older age as a second career or something they switched into from another line of work. So, my backstory growing up as a little kid, I was always into watching trucks go by. This goes back as far as I can remember, and family members who know me that far, they can attest to that. I remember I'd watch all the trucks go by on the local main road in the town I grew up in, and at recess in school, instead of hanging out with the other kids, I would watch all the cars and trucks go by from on top of the playground equipment, and this kind of annoyed the teachers, but look where I am today. So that's a little backstory as to the history of me being into trucks. I remember when I was 5 years old, I got this book titled My Book About Me, and there was one page in the book that asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it had all kinds of career choices, and I circled truck driver. So even back then, I think I knew deep down this is what I wanted. Then, around fourth, fifth grade, teachers, parents, society in general, they started drilling in my head that I need to go to college in order to make something out of myself. And that was around the time in my life that I kind of put my interest in trucking on the back burner because I believed everything that was told to me about how you need a college degree. And I'm not knocking college. There are certain professions that do require a degree that if you go into that specialized field like doctor, nurse, lawyer, engineer, then you get a degree in that field, then good for you. I just remember at that point in my life changing my career interests to other white collar professions that typically require a degree and a lot of schooling. Like, I remember wanting to be a doctor at one point. I wanted to be a medical examiner, brain surgeon, and all sorts of other professions in the medical industry because I knew they made money. And then in intermediate school or middle school, I remember being into the whole getting the school to recycle initiative, and all the teachers were telling me I should study environmental science. Now, at the time, I think the reason I was into recycling was because I saw the recycling truck come to my house growing up, and that truck, I thought, oh man, if we can get the school to recycle, I can see more stuff going into trucks like that. And I thought that if I could get the school to recycle, then I could feel like I'm doing good and also see the trucks come and go more often than they did. And when that happened, I was told by everyone else I should major in environmental science if I go to college. And there was one instance in high school where I actually got to talk to a truck driver because I was working at a coffee shop chain from the Northeast, and I saw a truck driver that was pulling an oversized load come in, and I asked him how he liked his job, and he said it was great money, and he really enjoyed traveling around the country. And at that moment, my interest in trucking was reignited, and I remember telling some people that I wanted to drive a truck, and the responses I were met with were, largely negative, believe it or not. I was told by a lot of people that I'd be selling myself short, I'm too smart for that type of work, and me driving a truck with the grades I was getting in school would be like me choosing to work at McDonald's with a PhD. And it was kind of discouraging to hear because this driver I talked to seemed like he enjoyed his job, and he said the money was good. Didn't ask him how much he made, but if someone is happy with what they're making, then that's what counts. But being that I grew up in the Northeast, I honestly think that teachers, parents, and society in general, they have a certain view of blue collar workers, including truck drivers, who they perceive as less than them. Like, it seems as though in the Northeast, in order to become high value, per se, you need to work a white collar professional job that involves going to a 4-year college. And I ended up doing just that. I did 2 years at community college and 2 years at a 4-year school in my state. And I studied environmental science. And during this time, I was honestly going through the motions just to say I was in college. I didn't really know what I wanted. There were all these job opportunities presented to me, like not actual offers, but lines of work you can go into that were offered to me. And none of them really seemed that interesting to me. I picked soil science and hydrology as my concentration because I thought that would be the most interesting out of the ones that I was in, since it seemed to involve the most hands-on work and least amount of office work. But I ended up having to take classes online because in 2020, certain events, gotta be careful for YouTube here, certain events around the world happened involving a type of bug, if you will. And during this time when classes were online, I noticed that all the people that were losing their jobs were mostly the white collar professional workers. None of the blue collar guys like the truck drivers and welders and plumbers, none of them seemed to be out of work. All of them were working just fine as though nothing happened. And it was at that moment that I realized, wait a second, why has society been telling me to go to school, rack up student loan debt, just to get a piece of paper saying that I'm smart enough to sit through all these classes and obtain a skill and job that I wouldn't be able to get otherwise? Why have I been doing that? It doesn't really make sense. So at that moment, I realized, wait a second, I don't even want to do what I'm going to school for. I want to be a truck driver, like I wanted to since I was a little kid. And I remember at that moment, I told my parents that I wanted to drive a truck, and they were more accepting of it this time around, seeing the consequences of the events in 2020, and they supported my decision to want to get my CDL. They told me, though, that if I wanted to do that, I would have to finish my degree first. And I did. I graduated from school in December of 2021 when I was 22 years old. Fortunately, by God's grace, I didn't have any student loan debt, and I immediately went to CDL school afterwards. And during this time, I had exactly 1 week of classroom training that was done on Zoom, and 3 weeks of behind the wheel training that was done in the driving school's yard and on the road. And let me tell you guys, if for anyone that's thinking about going into trucking, the first time you get behind the wheel of an 18-wheeler and hit the road, you're going to remember that for the rest of your life. I still remember the exact road I was on and the feeling of actually being on the road. Like, the thoughts I had were, holy cow, I'm actually doing this right now. I'm doing what I've waited 22, almost 23 years to do. And I got my CDL in February of 22, and I got hired by a company less than a month later. It's a pretty good trucking company based out of Wisconsin. You might be able to figure out for those of you in the industry. They got big red trucks. I'll say that for now. Maybe I'll make a video on it in the future about my experience there. But I started that job, and I learned very quickly, this is a job that I've wanted all along. I honestly believe that God created me to be a truck driver, because most of the days I was on that job, I didn't even feel like I was working. All you have to do when you're trucking is literally drive the truck and trailer from point A to point B, and the only physical work involved is hooking and unhooking the trailer, opening the doors, and occasionally restacking pallets if something falls over, which has happened to me on one occasion. So with that, one thing I can say about getting a job as a truck driver is that as soon as you have that CDL, if your driving record is clean, then companies will be hopping all over you trying to compete for your employment. It's the complete opposite of what I dealt with in the college environment, where you had 50 people competing for one job. I remember there, the professors were telling me that if you want an environmental science job and you apply for 100 applications, you'll be lucky if you get 5 interviews. And some people apparently had dozens of interviews and no job offers. So they ended up oftentimes going back to working retail or working some other job that doesn't require a college degree. And technically I'm in that category as well, because I got a degree, but I don't flaunt it around. I don't act like I'm better than other people who don't have one. I mean, I honestly believe that God created everyone for a specific purpose in life, and if you find what that purpose is and you're happy doing whatever it is, then that's how you achieve true peace and happiness when you're here in this life. And I honestly believe that for me, driving a truck is that particular passion of mine. So I'm blessed to be where I am right now, recording this video from the driver's seat, and I'm happy with the decision I made to get my CDL and become a truck driver. And I hope to any of you watching this that whatever you're interested in doing in life for your job, or interested in considering switching to, you pray about it and make a good decision on your part that you won't regret, because switching careers is a big investment. And for me, I did a lot of research on driving a truck before taking the plunge. So with that, I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video, and hope you all have a great day. Take care.